Good morning, class. Today we are going to talk about the basic steps to making a Christmas sugar cookie recipe. At the same time, we're going to review some of the principles we want you to practice when you are working in your foods lab. This is an electric stand mixer. Every lab has one. And I need to make sure all of you know how to make that mixer work. So those are the things we're going to review today, as well as the steps to making your cookie recipe. Okay, in this cookie recipe, our first step is to take softened butter, which we have placed in this stand mixer container bowl, and we are going to mix that together with 1.5 cups of powdered sugar. Another word for powdered sugar is confectioner's sugar. And we're going to review measuring, and I know you learned this in an earlier class, so this is just review. If I need to measure 1.5 cups of something, I need this metal spatula. And I'm going to use that with my very clean measuring equipment to level off those dry ingredients like you see here and put it into the container. I'm then going to do this next step. I'm going to repeat the process with the 1 cup measure. Okay? It is all right, as far as I'm concerned, for you to put a piece of measuring equipment into the container as long as it's all clean. All right, so make sure whenever you're measuring these dry ingredients, you have clean equipment. That will be part of mise en place. Mise en place stands for to put in place, and it's just a fancy French term that tells you you need to get organized for lab, to prepare so you can work efficiently. All right, the next thing we're going to be measuring is 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Vanilla extract is a flavoring, and if I need 1 teaspoon of that, I could measure it over the bowl if I'm really careful. But if I have doubts, I might measure this over a dish instead, just in case I have shaky hands and I make a mistake. All right, so that is the teaspoon of vanilla extract. The next thing I am going to need is a little almond extract. Now here's the thing that's kind of tricky. If you're making cookies for a large group, they may or may not like almond extract, so sometimes if you prefer, instead of that 1/4 teaspoon of almond extract, you might just put another 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla in it. So in this case, to make my people happy, and again, I'm going to be using this dough as part of our cookie sale, I've decided just to be on the safe side, since there's already going to be almond extract in our icing, let's just put a little extra vanilla in. And then I pour that into the container, all right? Now, let's think about other things we might need. The final thing we might need is an egg. Now, most of our eggs are probably going to be just fine, but my recommendation to you, if you have any doubts, is to take a knife, or in this case I've got a metal spatula, and break it into a dish. One of the nice things about breaking into a dish is then you don't have to worry about getting any of your eggshells in your mixture. Because if we're doing a cookie sale, we certainly don't want people getting eggshell in their product because they're paying for it. All right, so I'm using my rubber scraper to scrape out the excess. I'm using my rubber scraper to get the extra sugar and butter out of the way, and now I'm going to review how you are to put this together. Every now and again, I get people that tell me they know how to do this, and I find out later how wrong I was. See these little teeth here? All right, there's a little kind of disky thing with a hook in it. I'm going to line that up. Okay, this is what people forget to do, and that's the second step. Pushing that down so the top of this bowl is parallel with the countertop. If you don't do that, when you turn this on, it's going to go clunk, 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 clunk. And everybody will hear you. And it's potentially damaging to your stand mixer. Now I already have this plugged in, and you need to remember, you plug in any electrical appliance by using the plug, never the cord. All right, I don't know if you can see this, but this is called the paddle. For 99% of the things you make in here using the stand mixer, the paddle is what you're going to use. Okay, here's what I also need to tell you. This is the whisk, and it is metal. The problem with whisks in some of your labs is they may be made of an aluminum metal, and if you choose to beat things like whipped cream with this, and you get carried away and it clinks on the side too much, it can discolor that whipped topping. This has a coating on it, and I don't worry about that. So I personally prefer the paddle for that reason as well. So to put this in, there's this little indentation that I line up with this tooth, like so, and then I twist it and bring it down. All right? My next problem I have with kids is they will now turn on the electric stand mixer and wonder why it's not working. I bet you all know there's a little handle on the other side. You can't really see it, but you got to turn that up. Now, should I put it on high right away? No, the answer is absolutely no, because all that powdered sugar will fly up. If we had shield guards, that would be great, but we don't. So sometimes my hand serves as a shield guard. Now my problem is I can't see this real well, but you would start on a very low speed, okay? And you're gonna just sit there and let that powdered sugar incorporate into the mixture. And we're gonna pretend we did that, and we did. Then you're gonna turn it on high speed. And you're gonna look for a little color change from a darker golden color to a lighter, fluffier golden color. After I think it's, blended somewhat, I will also decide to use my rubber scraper to scrape down the sides of the bowl, like this. And you might not be able to see this on camera, but I'm not putting this on the countertop. I'm putting it on a plate. That can help prevent mess in your lab, make cleanup a little easier. Okay, we're gonna let this beat. The nice thing about the stand mixer is I can now go away and do other things, so I can use my time well. All right, here is the next thing I have to measure. In the bowl that I am about to pull out here, I'm gonna measure the rest of the dry ingredients. So I'm going to move this out of the way. In your lab, you will have staples, okay? That staples covered. In this case, in lab 1, for example, right next to the sink, and there's a little label that will tell you is your staples covered. Okay, I'm a little afraid, unfortunately, that you won't be able to hear me with the sound of this, so I am going to turn it off. If you were working in lab, you just let that go while you take care of this. Now, another thing I'm going to talk about is I'm doing this by myself. You're going to be doing it with 3 or 4 people. So you're going to break these tasks up when you plan your lab. You're going to have 1 or 2 people doing this step, and then you're going to have 1 or 2 people doing this step. I hope that makes sense. Is that how you did it in labs in the past with your other team? Now that we've mixed together the eggs and the sugar and the vanilla and all the liquid or plastic ingredients and creamed them so that they're fluffy in the electric blender, stand mixer. Now we're ready to mix our dry ingredients together and add them and finish making our cookie dough. So this recipe calls for 2½ cups of flour. You will have flour in your lab in the cupboard labeled staples. And it is okay to put your measuring cup into the flour if it is clean. So make sure it's clean, make sure your metal spatula is clean, and then after you dip it into the flour, you'll just simply level it off like this and put it into a larger bowl off to the side, because we're going to measure and mix all of our dry ingredients together. Now, recipes sometimes ask for flour to be sifted. You don't have to sift the flour unless the recipe specifically says to do so. So this is all-purpose flour that we're working with. It does not ask us to sift it, so all we have to do is measure it and put it into our mixing bowl. So we're going to put the cover back on this and put it away. All right, next we have to measure a teaspoon of baking soda. Baking soda is a leavening agent. It helps the product to rise. It also neutralizes acid. What I like about this is I can actually use the edge of the container to level off the baking soda and add it as such. Again, I used a clean measuring spoon. Finally, the cream of tartar. That's a stabilizing agent. I need a teaspoon of that as well. And what I'm going to do is just put that teaspoon in, take the small metal spatula, carefully measure, and put it into the bowl. If I have any spills, I can return that to the container, and that'll be that. So make sure you understand that when we have any kind of spices or seasonings, we're going to have them on the measuring table. And it's really important that you bring a custard cup, and if those ingredients are all added at the same time, you can measure them together at the same time and put them in a custard cup and bring them back to your lab, while someone in the lab is measuring that flour. That way you'll save some steps and you'll dovetail tasks and be much more efficient in lab. So now I'm taking my rubber scraper, I'm mixing those dry ingredients together, and then I am adding it to this recipe, the creamed mixture. And I can either shake it in, or I can, use the rubber scraper to help get it out of the bowl. Because I've sanitized my counter, if I have a few spills, I can just, put them into the mixture. Now it's going to be really important when I start this up to go on a very, very low speed, because if I don't, all that flour is going to poof up and it's going to make a really big mess. Sometimes we'll have shields that will prevent that from happening, but in this case, that's not how it is. You're going to lift up the level, the handle, and then here is where you would turn it on low. Some of the stand mixers have a lock that you can put in place, so if it's a very thick mixture, you don't have to worry about it, jumping around too much. But once we get that mixed, we are going to take, with the magic of television, that finished dough, make 2 dough balls, and then, pat them down, maybe flatten them a little bit. Make sure we label our lab number and hour on that Ziploc bag, and then we're going to put those into the refrigerator overnight. We're going to bring them out maybe an hour before class begins the next day so that they can kind of warm up a little bit. It'll be easier for them to roll out, and then we're going to make our sugar cookies. So the next part of this video will be a review on how to properly roll out your dough and cut out your sugar cookies. So we will see you tomorrow. Thanks.